clattered against the ceramic cup, the sharp sound slicing through the quiet hum of the café. Every head turned for a second, but for him, time had already slowed to a painful crawl. Across the table, the little girl kept coloring, unaware of how fragile the moment had become. But the woman standing beside her, her voice barely steady, had just said something that struck deeper than any sound in that room. "Sir, you remind me of my late father. If you believe every story hides a lesson, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Stories, because sometimes, the smallest moments carry the biggest truths." He looked up at her, eyes wide, not offended, not confused, just shaken in a way he hadn't been in years. His face, lined with time and quiet struggles, softened as if something long buried had suddenly risen to the surface. The cafe lights reflected faintly in his watery eyes. He wasn't used to being seen like that, not anymore. The woman hesitated, clearly unsure if she had crossed a line. She hadn't meant to say it out loud. It had just slipped out when she noticed the way he gently pushed the paper closer to the little girl, the way he held the pencil for her when her tiny fingers got tired. The patience, the softness, the silent kind of love that didn't ask for attention. It reminded her too much. He shifted in his chair, glancing briefly at the girl beside him. She was completely absorbed in her drawing, her small tongue peeking out in concentration, her world still simple, still untouched by loss. His granddaughter, the only piece of his son he had left. Years ago, grief had taken everything from him in one violent moment. A car accident, a phone call that still echoed in his nightmares. His son gone, his daughter-in-law gone, and a baby girl left behind, too young to understand why the world had suddenly gone quiet. He had stepped into a role he never expected to live at his age, father again. Not because he was ready, but because there was no one else. The woman slowly pulled out the chair across from him, her movements careful, almost reverent. There was something fragile connecting them now, something neither of them fully understood yet. She sat down, her eyes lingering on the child, then back on him. Her own memories surfaced uninvited. Hospital rooms that smelled too clean, machines that beeped too steadily, and the fading warmth of a hand she had held onto until the very last second. Her father had been her anchor, her safety in a chaotic world. Losing him had left a silence she never quite learned to fill. And now, sitting here in a random cafe, she felt that same presence again, not in face or voice, but in something deeper. In the way this man existed. In the quiet strength he carried. The old man cleared his throat, his voice low, almost unsure of itself. Not because he didn't have words, but because he had too many, and none of them felt safe to say. Outside, the evening light dimmed, turning the glass windows into mirrors of reflection. Inside, the air seemed heavier, filled with things unsaid but deeply felt. The little girl suddenly looked up, holding her drawing toward the woman with innocent pride. It was a simple picture, 3 stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun. One tall, one smaller, one in between. The woman smiled, but her eyes shimmered with something deeper. She leaned forward slightly, studying it like it was a masterpiece. For the first time in a long while, the old man let out a quiet breath that didn't feel like survival, it felt like release. Moments passed, unmeasured and soft. The cafe noise faded into the background, replaced by something quieter, more meaningful. 2 strangers, bound by loss, sitting across from each other, not to fix anything, not to replace anyone, but simply to understand, and sometimes, that is enough. But before the story reaches its end, take a moment, comment below and share what you're feeling right now. Have you ever met someone who reminded you of someone you lost? Because what happened next didn't come with grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It came in something much smaller, much realer. She began visiting the cafe more often. At first, it was coincidence. Then, it became intention. The old man didn't question it. He didn't push it away either. Life had already taken too much from him to risk shutting out something that felt gentle, safe. The little girl grew comfortable around her quickly. Children have a way of sensing sincerity, of recognizing warmth without needing explanations. Soon, there were shared drawings, quiet laughter, and moments that stitched something new into the fabric of their lives. Not a replacement, never that, but something that existed alongside the pain, not instead of it. And for the woman, the emptiness she carried didn't disappear, but it softened. It found space to breathe, to exist without suffocating her. For him, the loneliness that once echoed through his days became quieter. Not gone, just quieter. They never named what they became to each other. They didn't need to, because some connections aren't meant to be defined. They're meant to be felt. And as the cafe lights dimmed night after night, 3 lives continued to cross paths at the same small table, each carrying their own past, each finding something unexpected in the presence of the other. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't scroll away silently. Like, share, and let someone else feel it too. Because sometimes, the smallest connections can change everything in ways we never see coming.